welcome to Researcher Revealed. I'm Dr. Rosalind Austin, and this is the podcast where we go behind just the name that's written as an author on a paper or a conference presentation to get to know the person behind the research and to find out why they're doing research and how their career's going. My guest this week is Dr. Angela Durante. I met her about a year ago at a conference, and I wanted to invite her on the podcast so that she could share her journey with all of you. Make sure, before we get into the episode, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, especially those comments. If you have a question for the guest, do put it on the YouTube comment section for this episode, because it just makes it easier for me to find it, to answer it. And yeah, make sure that if you have a specific question for Angela, dive into the episode description, because her social media profile is there, so you can reach out to her through there. This episode was brilliant. She had such a beautiful way with words, and there was multiple times I actually got goosebumps in listening to her describe her journey and how research is going for her. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. Hello and welcome to Researcher Revealed. I'm Dr. Rosalind Austin, and on today's episode we have the very lovely Angela Durante coming streaming all the way from Italy. Angela, can you introduce yourself to everybody, please?
Hi, Rosalind, and thanks for inviting me. I'm Dr. Angela Durante, as you said correctly, from Italy, even if I have traveled a lot in the last years. So maybe we're going to touch a little bit some of the places that I have visited during my road trip to research. And I'm an enthusiastic researcher, as I like to define myself. I'm based in Pisa, where there's the Pending Tower. Maybe some of you are familiar with that. And my background is nursing. So I think that's all.
That's perfect. I'm so excited about this because I first came across you at ACNAP, not last year, the year before. No, it was
Maybe.
HFA.
HFA.
It was HFA, and you did an amazing. Your poster was so beautiful. Your moderated poster about food and heart failure, and I was like, "Ooh, I got to talk to you because you had a cool creative streak to you." And I'm glad that we're finally able to sit down and I get to learn more about your journey into research. But hold that thought, because first and foremost, we have to find all about your deep, dark secrets. Dun dun dun. In the Researcher Revealed Rapid 11. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Are you a Windows or Mac user?
Windows.
All right. Tea or coffee?
Coffee. I'm Italian.
Oh, sorry, it's not funny, but it is kind of funny because you don't get an option in Italy, do you? You probably can't even buy tea in Italy.
No, it's fine. But it's pretty common that people drink coffee and espresso, of course.
Well, is there anything other than espresso in Italy?
Yeah, we have several versions, with milk, without, all this.
I'm just teasing. Oh, perfect. Too funny. When you're writing, do you prefer to have music in the background or silence?
Normally there is a lot of noise around me, so I have been often used to have overcrowded places in which I'm working. So even when I was a little student, I used to study at home with the TV on. So I'm used to have something
like
surrounding
noise
me.
more than music. Okay,
Yes.
nice. I like it. Where do you tend to work? At home or an office?
No, I work in office always. I try to let all the work done in the office.
Perfect. Keep that separation. I like
I try to.
That's clever. I do not have that, but I have a home office. But when I'm done for the day, I close the door so I can't see the office. So I try. Anyway, what time of day do you feel that you are most productive?
Definitely in the morning.
In the morning.
The first hours of the morning, so very, very early in the morning.
Very nice. I like it. All right, next one. Now we're getting into the juicy stuff. What what is your favorite referencing management system? So by that, I don't mean like type of referencing like Harvard or whatnot, but like the software program or a system that you use to sort your references.
I think that I've tried them all during the years.
Okay, so which is your favorite?
I don't have a very favorite one. It depends on my collaborators. So I let them people choose normally. I ask other people with what they, especially with students,
Yeah.
when I ask them what they are used to. So I adapt myself to the other needs.
Oh, I love that. That's really cool. So you know how to use loads of them. That's really, really clever. I like that. Right, next question is what is your favorite data visualization tool? So making your graphs, your figures, stuff like that.
Maybe I would be a little bit old-fashioned about that. No, but I'm one of those people that still like PowerPoint.
No, no. So PowerPoint is so common. It's not old-fashioned.
But I also appreciate Canva. So it depends. For example,
Ooh.
the poster you like
Yeah.
was a combination of the two. So I start with Canva, but then I finish with PowerPoint.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yes. So the combination
Ooh.
of the two.
Nice. I like it. I like it.
Mixed method person. We used to combine things.
I love it. Mixed method person. Oh, I'm sorry, but that's beautiful. Oh, right. What about a desk snack? Do you sit and eat at do you have a snack that you have at your desk that's the same all the time, like a favorite one?
I have to say that I have wonderful colleagues that
Mm.
normally cares for me about that because I'm really
Ooh.
bad and I
No,
forget to
that sounds
bring something.
amazing.
So, for example, today I was in a meeting and a colleague appeared in the meeting and bring me an espresso. So I'm really bad. I forget to do that. So normally I have colleagues that sometimes say, I haven't seen you eating in hours, so, and bring me something.
Oh,
So normally
oh,
are my colleagues.
that's beautiful.
Yeah, there is very good caring.
Oh, that's lovely. Right, almost there. Three more questions to go. When you're planning, so whether it's like outline of a paper or a research project, are you or your life in general, but planning and organizing, are you a pen and paper person or are you a digital person?
Old fashioned also in this case. So
Okay, meaning,
paper, yeah. I used to have small books in which I take tons of notes.
hmm,
And then I have a physical agenda, which is definitely here, the black book.
nice. Ooh, looks
The black book.
beautiful.
And especially the people who works with me knows that if it's not written there, it does not exist. So then,
Mm.
so it's pretty common that I say, check my agenda. If it's not written there, it does not exist. So because they know that I'm not able to, I always made confusion when I have to record meetings on the
Right.
online calendars. So
Yeah.
I always say, check my agenda. If it's there, it's fine. If it's not, then it exists.
I love it. Brilliant. Right. Now, the next question, I realize that you are English is not your native tongue. And so
No.
the next question, the answer might not be in English, and that's fine. So just say the answer in Italian. But what book are you currently reading?
Uh, I'm not currently reading, but I just finished
Yeah.
three books of an Italian author. She's Annick Emden. And I love her style, the way in which she
Mm.
writes. Remembers me a lot when I was young and I used to read Niccolò Ammaniti.
Okay.
And I love Noir's book.
Ooh.
So, in which there are the elements that need to be combined to have a deep picture of what I'm looking
Ooh.
at.
Ooh. Oh, that sounds fascinating. What I'll get you to do, because this goes out worldwide, so there might be other people who are going to listen to this that are Italian, and so will want to read the book that you've read, and maybe they also love noir books. Is after we're done recording, can you email the name of the books that you've just finished and the author, and then I'll put it in the episode description,
Okay,
so that people can then find it, and if they want to read it, they can. Cool.
sure.
Right, perfect. Last question is, who is a researcher that you admire?
Ooh, several people.
So
Uh,
you don't have to name a person if you don't want to. Some people
no.
don't want to, but if you'd like to share a name that really inspires you, please do.
Oh, there are several people that really guide me during this short journey of 10 years. Uh, for sure, I will pick up my academic dad. So,
Your academic dad?
yes, Ercole
Like,
Verlone. Yeah, it
oh,
was my
okay, not
mentor.
your actual dad.
No, no, it's but the academic one because it really, raised me as a PhD
Yes.
student.
Yes, I understand. Yep, yep.
And we are still in contact. I was talking just with him today, so I still contact him for important decisions in the career, but also uh, when I feel overwhelmed,
Yeah.
I still ask for his
Oh,
advice. Yeah, so
that's
definitely him.
lovely. That's so nice that you have that continuation of that relationship, because I know several people, like once they finish their PhDs, the for a period of time, or maybe forever, and maybe for good reasons and maybe for bad reasons, those ties with those academic supervisors is severed. So to hear that you've maintained that relationship and that it's still a really important relationship for you is
Yeah,
lovely.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that he has been really inspiring for many nurse Italian researcher because uh, it represents a generation of researchers. So, and many of us grew up with them. So, um, and so and it was the person that bring self-care topic in Italy. So, and then of course
Ah,
there have been many of us that grew up with him. So for me, he will remain the mentor.
yeah.
And then, even if then he left me, like real. That's why I call him the academic dad, because like real dad, when it was the time, he let me go and walk by myself. But I always know that I can contact him in case of emergency, like
Oh
real
my
dad.
goodness. I literally just got goosebumps listening to you describe that. That's beautiful. Wow. Right. I'm going to say put a pause on research for a minute,
Okay.
because I want to go back into research, but very, very quickly, I want to throw back past 10 years. And I know you said you were a nurse. Just share with us quickly, because we've got a lot to cover today. It's going to be a grand jam-packed episode. How did you go from being a nurse to ending up where you are today? And like, not the full details, but more like, what was that event as a nurse that made you think, huh, research might be cool?
So at first, I have to confess that I didn't plan it. So let's start with this. So it was not in my plan. No idea of doing that. So to give you an idea on how much it was not in my plan,
Yeah.
my mom brings me to the exam for getting into the PhD because I never have been in Rome. It was in another city,
Yeah.
and I didn't know really what the PhD was going to meant in my life.
Okay.
So I was not totally aware of what doing a PhD and then doing research would have been. This is not because, so this is because in Italy, nursing research is pretty young. So the PhD
Yeah.
in nursing in Italy just started in 2006. and I did my own in 2016. So it was just 10
Okay.
years.
10 years in. Yeah.
So it was not something so common to do. And it was not planned at all, because I was doing my master and I had interest in self-care. And I know that there was the adaptation of the scale ongoing, and I want to use that. Then while asking for the permission of the scale, I get aware that there was the PhD, because Professor Bellone was there. So it was not in my plans. And then I read the call and I say, let's try. So, but really not aware of what I was going to do. I love research since my bachelor, that's for sure.
Okay.
Because I started doing some research at my bachelor, identifying problems, concrete problems in the clinical field. So it was the year in which in Italy was approved the law about pain. So the need of detecting pain and how to manage and control pain. And I noticed that in the pediatric world, there were not instruments to measure pain in babies or in children who were not Italian speakers. And there were already a lot of different ethnic groups in the country. So I asked myself, how are we going to measure the pain in this baby if the mom and the baby is not going to be able to read in Italian?
Yeah.
So, and then, I developed something that was very basic, but it was, that was my mindset. So I tried to put together my background, because I'm at the high school in foreign languages. And then the fact that I was studying nursing. So I put together these two elements. So I always try to bring with me my foreign language background. And I did an Erasmus, so I started traveling. And that was really the beginning of the journey. When I jumped to the PhD, then there was this need, the fact that caregivers of people with heart failure were not studied. So just to give you an idea, when I started my PhD, caregiver burden was not a mesh term. And we know how much is important to have a mesh term that identify your topic.
Yeah.
If you see the definition in PubMed, is labeled 2021, because the mesh term arrived later on. And then most of the research was developed in English speaker countries, or countries that were familiar with English. I'm thinking about the north of Europe. And so there was this incredible need of having also the feedback of other kind of countries. And I used the fact of being trilingual to run into this project and to involve two Mediterranean countries, so Italy and Spain, and then the Netherlands, which has been a country that hosts also a lot of South European people, especially during the 80s. So now there are second generation people in. And then that was the start of the journey. Then I was funded by the ESC, by the HFA for precision. And one of the criteria of that call was that you have to collect your data abroad. So part of my data was collected in Spain and in the Netherlands. And another thing that was lacking in that moment, not in the literature, but in my country, was a mixed method expert. But then I really want to have both components in my study, quantitative and qualitative, because it was the first study. So I really was willing to have it as much complete as possible. So I start studying mixed methods by myself at first. Then I found an expert to consult. That then was the lovely person that hosted me in the United States when I applied for Fulbright. Connections.
Like, oh my goodness. So I'm just going to put a pause there for a minute, because I think for people who aren't aware of you, And this is the first time that you'll come across their page, for lack of a better way to say it, is that actually like from starting your PhD to now, you have had quite a, and I think you would probably say the word luck, but I would say there's probably a bit more to it than luck. You've had quite a lot of success around getting funding, having your research be recognized and having awards, getting, like you said, a Fulbright award to go to America, the Erasmus projects. I mean, you've only just come back from another Erasmus project that you're working on that took you to Ethiopia. So I think before we dive into it a little bit more, I think I will have in the episode description a link to like your online profile, your bio, things like that, so people can find you and talk about it. But I think for me, the thing that was really interesting about, your start of your journey into research is that you just jumped in. And now, listening to you starting to describe your journey and the collaborations that you built, again, you're jumping straight in to something that a lot of nurses really struggle with. And I'd really like, if you're happy, to focus on that. And that's that magical mystery box of within a research world, having international collaborations, international research. So aside from, I'm going to use your word. I don't fully believe it, but I'm going to use it because it's your word. The luck you had in having these opportunities pop up to you. How would somebody go about developing as a nurse international research?
Wow. So, um, two things. So, one, a colleague of mine told me at the very beginning of my journey in the PhD, the application you are for sure not going to win is the one that you do not apply to. So,
Ooh, oh, I
so,
like that.
so if you are not going to apply, for sure you're not going to have it. So try. And at the beginning of my journey, I had the opportunity also to attend the EANS summer school, the European Academy of Nursing Science, and in which one of the motto chosen for that summer school was ever tried, ever failed. No matter, try again, file better.
Nice.
And that, and if I have to pick up the third one, rejection happens every day in common life. But we didn't notice it anymore. So people maybe don't like your shoes, or there is always a rejection ongoing, but we didn't notice it. So this for
So slow
sure.
down, because I think that's really powerful, and I want to make sure people heard what you said. So rejection happens all the time. You just might not notice. And so you think the big shift from being ordinary nurse, ordinary person into a researcher is you become much more aware of those rejections.
Uh, about this point, I would say that the first things that I always say to people that approach from clinical setting to research is to have the awareness that they have to deal with the time shift. Because
Okay.
when you are in clinical settings, everything can happen, but at the end of the day, you know that you have done your best and that there was a team that was making the best too. And you know that because whatever the outcome is going to be, we know that not all the days are easy in the clinical settings, but you did your best for sure. and other colleagues were trying to make the best with you too. But when you are in research, you don't have that awareness. So at the end of the day, you don't know if you have done your best or not. As soon as you are not going to receive the first email that say that your paper has been accepted. And it might take long. It might take long. So I started my PhD in 2016 and my first publication is 2018. So it takes me at least 2 years to see that email for the first time. And then of course that's the reward. When you are doing your clinical work, at the end of the day, you have your reward in any case. And maybe many times also during the day. So this is the first things that you have to deal with. Then in terms of opportunities, so moving back to your original questions, I don't think I had any special talent. I am and I was extremely curious, that's for sure. So any opportunity that arrived to me, for example, the email for the Ian's summer school opportunity or the call for abstract, I picked any opportunity. So, and I was telling, I don't know if you have ever seen this wonderful movie that is Gattaca.
So I think possibly, but let's just check the movie. So the Gattaca I know of is like a sci-fi movie about like genetics. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, we're on the same
that
movie.
one.
All right, cool.
The very last part of the movie, when there are the two brothers, they are swimming together.
Yeah.
I never saved the swim back for the swim back.
Yes.
And that was my strategy. So I never saved for the swim back. I never thought in looking back. So I just go ahead and try every single opportunity, because I think that many of us during the journey had opportunities. We're not always able to recognize how big they are at the beginning. But I would use the word that one of the colleagues used today with me. You always have been enthusiastic in research, and that's true. Even if I was not totally aware or totally don't feel confident about my knowledge and my competencies, but I was enthusiastic and I moved forward. Mm-hmm. I had several stops, there are often good ideas that you have in mind, but then the circumstances also matter. Yeah. So maybe there are moments in which you have to put the idea aside or share with someone else who is going to be able to help you to do that, or is going to be able to develop that idea furthermore. So that was the strategy. So anytime I had an opportunity, I look more in depth for that and try to understand if I was eligible for that.
Yeah. So
looking at the criteria and say, I can try. And then I keep very serious the suggestion of that colleague that told me, you try, you never know. Maybe they are looking for you and you don't know that. So I start trying and applying. And then things went. So we never know.
Yeah.
We never know. We definitely never know.
I love that. And I think it's such a beautiful way to look at it. But I also think it's a fairly unique perspective for nursing and for nurses.
I hope no.
I hope not either. And I think it's changing. But I think, well, it's not just nurses. So I've listened to loads of entrepreneurial podcasts and stuff. And there is an accepted sort of belief, understanding that females, regardless of whether you're a nurse or not, no, let me finish, that females are much less likely to apply for something unless they're actually overqualified for that job. Where a male will have like maybe one of the qualifications and will apply for it. And I wonder whether or not that is potentially, because nursing is so female dominated, whether or not that innate maybe, or that trained, I don't know, but that hesitancy in females to be curious, to stick their hand up, to jump for opportunities, to just apply, to do exactly what you're embodying, being enthusiastic and just giving it a go. I wonder if the femaleness of nursing makes it so that people like you are rarer, and people like other females that I've had on the podcast are rarer rather than the average nurse. I don't know. What do you think?
I can't say really. So, or
Okay.
maybe I haven't made a serious reflection about that. So my approach to life, I think that also came from my family and personal background. So I grew up in Milan, and I think that was my first opportunity in life, because it gives me the opportunity to have this international education and to study. But my family originally came from the deep south of Italy, and so that maybe I think that things happens, and whenever I apply or do something, it's not just for me. So I have the first people graduated in my family, the first person who attended the university. So it's not just for me. So
Oh,
and
wow.
any award, any grant is not for me. So there is always a solid band that allow me to do that. So there is always mom waiting for me at the airport, who is waking up at 4 a.m. to bring me to get that plane, or who is calling me and checking if I get up that morning to bring that flight, how that exam was. And so my family for sure. And then, my biggest satisfaction is that my brother then is younger 10 years than me, and he became a physiotherapist. So it means that maybe
Ooh,
something.
definitely. I think it definitely does. And I think for me, this is why I love these conversations, is because like I think when other nurses out there, I know for me, when I first started, when I was reading papers and seeing those names, I made a lot of assumption about who they were, where they came from, what kind of family they had, what their education was, and all of those things. And the more I have conversations with people like you who, yes, you jump. Yes, it's luck. Yes, haha, you have no skill. Hashtag, That's not true. Um, you know, but you've achieved all of these things. But hearing you share that that isn't just you, that it's that family that's around you, and already, even just intimately within, a couple of years, or how many of years there is between you and your brother, he's been inspired to go into health as well. And he's now working this all of that sort of thing. And I think that's why I think having this platform is so important for us as health researchers, whether it's nurses, physios, or whatnot, because I don't think our voice often is invited. So thank you for sharing all of that.
Oh, I told you at the beginning, so there are my colleagues that care for me. So, that's why it's not just you. So there is really a band of people supporting you in achieve any goal.
Yeah, but I think that's really important. So not just you, back to this international collaboration and network building thing. Okay, so we've established rule 1 is jump at the opportunities. Rule 2 is just apply. So you've jumped at the opportunity, you've applied, and now you're faced with this opportunity to go and do research or collect data in another country, which may or may not be one of the languages that you speak. How do you then make it happen and make it be successful?
I don't have any secret formula. So, I just try every day to do my best as far as I can.
Yeah,
When I don't know, I ask.
yeah,
And when I fail, I say sorry. And any opportunity doesn't really mean just formal opportunity. That's
yeah,
another point. So one of my biggest collaborator, one of the paper that I share with you, is
yes,
the first paper that I've write with my colleague Yunus Adish. That to me is one of the most incredible experts in mixed methods. And the first time that we get in touch was through a Facebook group. So we didn't know each other. It write this post on a Facebook group asking if there was someone interested in collaborating on a systematic review about mixed method in nursing.
whoa,
And guess who put a thumb up on that post?
that is so cool, Angela.
Yeah. So that was our
Oh my word.
so that was our first collaboration, and it was entirely conducted via emails, so back and forth. And then we start some meetings, we share interests, we work well together, but that was just the first touch. And so it was not, but now I think that we have co-authored at least 25 publications together. So we've done a lot of work together now. So, and then another, I wouldn't say informal opportunity, but I was going to have my period in the United States. So when I went into my PhD, so all my attention, as I said before, was on caregiver of people with HF, with heart failure.
Yes.
And the year in which I start was 2015-16, and there were these two big reviews that came out, so that mainly so all the jobs that I made for my first year were not necessary anymore. So the first one was made by Professor Lucinda Gravin, and the other one was made by Professor Leah Bach. And they were totally inspiring about talking about the problems and the contribution of informal caregiving in people with HF.
Yeah.
And they were at the opening of my PhD dissertation. So they were at the base of my PhD dissertation. And when I had the chance, I told them. So I with Professor Bach, we were able to meet at an American Art Scientific session, and I told to her, with Professor Graben, I've write her an email. So I was going to spend a time in the United States, and I simply write her an email explaining her why her research was at the opening of my PhD dissertation and how it helped me to develop my journey and how much I was interested in her work. And now we are still collaborating together.
Wow.
And same with Professor Bach. So then they become co-authors and collaborators. I share with them which were my interest, my knowledge, and which was my point of view about their work.
Yeah.
And I would, in which way I would have really enjoyed to contribute so giving them my perspective.
Yeah.
And my characteristics as a researcher. And then when the opportunity arrived to be part of it, I joined. At the beginning, I was a little bit scared, of course, I said, I don't know. So but then I just say, do what you can do and what is it. So stick on your task and try to really focus on that and give another point of view and then try to do your best. And it works. So the opportunities can be formal or informal, and the other thing is sharing. So share who you are, what you do, which are your interests, and how does it, I wouldn't say fit, but how it can relate to other people's work. Starting like, I read your article, I really appreciate that. I also think about this option. And then maybe arrive the point in which that option is the right moment to push forward with that option. So this is really how it happened. So there was really no very strategic plan.
But again, like, I don't know. I sometimes struggle with myself on this because I think I'm more of a natural person like you who grabs an opportunity, gives it a go, reaches out, has a conversation, see what happens with it. But I have people in my life who are much more strategic with how they've directed their career. And I sometimes look at those people who have a plan and make the plan happen, and you can see ding, 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 ding. And I'm like, whoa. Meanwhile, I'm like, no, 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 no.
Yeah, so it's important to have a trajectory in mind.
Well, yeah, like, and I don't mean like literally like that crazy, but like I'm still on a trajectory, but I think it's more about like what I think the beauty of what you're doing is your trajectory remains solid, but your experience has more color in it because of those international collaborations and those opportunities that you've taken. And that doesn't, it's not saying one pathway is better or worse than the other. It just is a little bit different. And I think, like you noticed, like I loved your example way at the beginning of our conversation where you were saying like in your undergrad work, you noticed that there was a big immigrant population in Italy and a large population of patients who were coming to the hospital that nurses weren't effectively being able to communicate to them. They weren't able to communicate their needs. And so there becomes this barrier to care. And you were talking about that around the point of pain, but I think it's in reality, it can be much bigger than that. And there's increasing calls about making sure that research is more inclusive, that care is more inclusive, and there's increasing concerns in digital health about how that's likely going to increase those divides and lots of other things that are happening in our research world and our understanding when it comes to healthcare. But I think if if we're only going to build a service for the majority where we are, I don't think that that's going to create a sustainable system because the majority, even if you look in history, the majority shifts with time.
I'm happy that if I look back, I remain loyal to that bachelor nursing student that I was. I still continue to have a cultural point of view. And then, I dedicated my journey to a population that was not considered the informal caregivers. And then I also studied about cultural diversities, and self-care is made on cultural beliefs.
Yeah.
Behaviors are beliefs.
Yes.
And they are culturally based and biased maybe, but there is this strong influence. So I'm fine with myself in that, it was not so clear since the beginning. So that's why I told you it was not planned. But then during the years, if I look back, I feel that I remain loyal to the girl that found that problem. and that's I think that is my best achievement. So beyond grants and awards and whatever, remain myself. So trying to I always said that I did not really work quantitatively in terms of generalization, but instead I always try to find solution that works in my context. So for contextualization. And whenever there is diversity, which was one of the points that I replied to the reviewer when I published one of my favorite, in which there were three different population involved. And he asked me why you don't rise the diversity of your population. And my reply was because we are facing a common problem. So maybe work on commonalities instead of differences will lead us to a better solution. So try to work on commonalities is difficult because require adaptation, compromise, and willingness of found common points. But I don't see any majority or minority in differences, just differences, and use the elements that have in common those differences can lead us to found common solution to big problems.
That's brilliant.
No, it's just the perspective that I try to bring in what I write.
But I think like I think that it's that what you're describing, I think is one of the biggest strengths that I'm starting to see in this shift that's resulting from research, the field of research and who researchers are being broadened. So, 2008, 2006, and before then, maybe a little bit earlier than that, like very few people were doing research within health, especially in acute sectors, who weren't medics or pharma companies. Now, there were a few, and we all know like those big names. It's the Reigels, they were sort of like the fuel to this movement that we're now in, where there's an increasing, so in the UK, there's increasingly our big government body who funds and develops researchers and research projects. They're increasingly setting out specific calls, so they call them a highlight call, that are limited to a specific clinical population or a specific whatever population. So there's an upcoming one for AHPs with a specific focus on allied health care professionals who are the lesser known voice. So physios, everybody knows who a physio is and everybody knows what physio research is. But what about things like clinical scientists, speech pathologists, OTs, like they're lesser heard voices. And so they now have this protected pot. So they're not competing against the doctors or the pharma companies or the big tech companies for the funding for their project. And so we're getting more and more diverse voices in research in general. And I think your observation, why I think it's so powerful, that something that I'm hearing more and more of is that it's actually the one thing that we can guarantee in any research study is that there's going to be differences within the sample. Right? That's the sure thing. And it's, so like you say, like if instead of trying to make it so that everybody's the same and your research becomes so narrow that only 3 people in your population actually fit into your protocol, what happens and how much stronger would the evidence be if you make that group broader and you welcome those differences. And if you welcome those differences and your intervention, or you still end up with this interesting phenomenon that you've observed, how much stronger is that despite those differences, instead of getting rid of all those differences and then being like, well, if you're a boy and you're 55 and you're wealthy, which a lot of research, that welcome to the major population in research, then it will work for you. But if you're female and non-Caucasian, then we don't know what's going to happen to you when you take this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm not really, so I'm not criticizing generalization because I understand how it's needed.
Yes.
But I think we are at the point in which there are also contextualization needed, especially if you're going to implement. So there are so many contextual factors to take in account to bring research to real life settings.
Yeah.
And real life settings have their own characteristics.
Yeah.
There are components of the study.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that, that's maybe not the common perspective, but is the philosophy that I'm trying to apply in implementing changes every day. So any setting has peculiar characteristics that, of course, require of the findings of the generalization strategies and results, but then require also the care of adaptation in that context.
Exactly. But again, that's why I think like you working so hard to develop yourself into an international researcher is so powerful, because it's giving you those contexts, it's giving you those experiences. And so whether or not you are doing a study in Ethiopia or in Spain or in Italy or in Sweden or Finland or wherever, you're constantly learning those small shifts, but important shifts. And so then it helps you to see that real world implementation and applicability of those findings, rather than it being, lab based.
Yeah, that I'm smiling because I'm thinking as myself as a reviewer. So because as many of us, we also review articles, and I frequently so I appreciate people that really recognize and put the limits of their study, so that makes a serious thought about their study. And one of the limitation is often the data and the results must be read considering this is a single center study or a single country study, and which I'm totally fine with. But I always suggest to others, even if you are telling me that's the limitation of the study, fine. Give me also the contextual elements that let me understand how much is important for you that finding or that result. Which are the cultural elements that really, or the social elements in which your finding is located. Because if you're telling me that I have to read your results in consideration to the limitation that is conducted just in that center or in that region or in that country, which are the elements characteristics of that peculiar context, and how your results impact in that context. So limitations are fine, really. So don't struggle with that. We're not looking for the perfect study, but we are looking for the perfect impact. So how does it match? Sometimes I always said it, but insert that element that help me to understand why was that important for you to study that problem or that research objective. And so I think that cultural and contextual elements are fundamental to introduce in the studies, because they give us the opportunity to understand even the small results.
Yeah. But I think like hello top tip for anybody who's submitting an article.
Yeah,
No, it is. I think it's one of those things like mentoring somebody at the minute and I'm trying to get like their first paper over the finish line. And it's so interesting because this individual is this individual tends to see the limitations, but they don't see the strengths.
yeah.
If you see what I'm saying. So again, I think that's I'm raising that because I think like that's another way of thinking about that contextual factor. So like if you have done a little study locally and it's, you know, even if it's not even a full research study, it's a small, like where a lot of nurses start, is small service audits, quality improvement projects. You know, why? Why did that get set up? What made it successful there? And how, where are those contextual factors, those strengths that you could pull out and highlight that then might make it so that somebody, even though it's from, you know, middle of England, somebody who's in the middle of Italy is like, oh, wait, actually, we have a CDU. There's sometimes spare beds. So what could we do with that space? And even if it doesn't look like the same, but it's about that giving, being transparent enough to give those contextual factors that actually highlight that, yes, those limitations, you can't get away from them, but they're not necessarily a bad thing.
No. So I totally agree with that. So it's much more true when we look at qualitative paper and mixed method ones, because they gives you the chance to make those in terms of qualitative research, to find commonalities in different sample, or sample came in from different countries. You know, that's particularly true, for example, if you're looking for the scope of practice of nursing.
Yeah.
So that's an example, a very powerful one to imagine for anyone else. But or research that, you know, that it's what brings us today here. But then or mixed method one, because it really helps you to explain what's up to your quantitative results. So if there are social constructs that are influencing what are you looking at, or can explain why your population work that way.
Yeah.
So it was really, you know, for me, it was really bringing together my whole life. So not just my research career. So I bring with me since the high school, so the different experience that I had in around the world, into my research. So maintaining this perspective and try to involve people with different background, with different cultural background, and with different professional background.
Yeah.
So I have worked with sociologists, with psychologists, with physicians, of course, with cardiologists. And so it really gives you another perspective.
Yeah. No, I preach into the choir.
So,
I love it.
absolutely.
I have just looked at the time though, and poof,
It just fly.
it just flew. I have so enjoyed getting like, I don't know, I think you and I are people who we could just talk forever. Because like we started out with this idea of like, let's talk about your international collaboration. And somehow we've ended up on advising people how to write their limitation section. Ah, too funny. Very, very quickly, just thinking of the time. The last question I like to ask everybody is, what advice would you give to a nurse who, like you, research isn't part of their plan? Why? Why should they consider it?
Wow, very hard question to reply. So the advice, of course, is carry on
Okay.
and don't do it for yourself. Why is not for yourself? It can be for your patients, for the population, for the future population, for the future of nursing. So not for yourself. We are not doing this job for ourselves.
No.
I think none of us. Any one of us has an inner reason or many inner reasons, but I think that none of, that story of that particular patients that rise you that concern, the baby that I took up in my hands and I was not able to come to tell me what his pain was about. It's not for
Yeah.
us. It's
Yeah.
not for us. It's never for us. And so my suggestion is do it for the others. So find your inner reason
Mm.
and uh, and found your research soul. So anyway, and stick on that to trust your research soul. So I it takes a while to get aware of which kind of, I think this podcast is too much emotional for me, but
Oh,
it
sorry.
it takes a while to get aware of which kind of researcher you are or you're going to be. So uh, but what I told you before is that I'm proud to find myself again in the everyday choice that were the same that I made when I had to pick up my nursing degree topic, and now is the same. So found your inner reason and your inner research soul and go for that.
Beautiful. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank
Oh,
you.
thank you.
It's been really, really good getting to talk and chat, and fingers crossed for good news for us both on
I hope
Friday.
so.
And maybe we can like catch up again soon.
Yes, hopefully.
Fingers crossed. For everybody out there who's listening, what Angela and I are talking about is in the cardiovascular world, there's a conference that's going to be in the south of France later this year, hosted by the European Society of Cardiology and the ACNAP. And I always forget the order. Basically, allied healthcare professionals that are and nurses that are interested in cardiology. It's not in the right order, and I never remember the right order for ACNAP, but hey ho. And both Angela and I have abstracts that have been submitted, and so we're both waiting for some news on Friday as to whether or not our abstracts have gotten accepted, and then we can go to the conference.
Yeah,
Maybe.
let's hope.
Let's hope. Excellent. Thank you very much for your time. For
Thank you
everybody
too.
who's listening, make sure you go into the episode description, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're listening on audio, her details, where you can find her, and 4 of her top papers, some of which are award-winning, are there, so you can dive into her research a little bit more now that you have a taste for who she is and what she likes to research. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you
Thank
very
you very
much,
much.
Angela, for joining.
Thank you.
Don't go away. Up next, we have the top 3 takeaways from this week's podcast by Dr. Rosalind Austin. Whoa. Wow. She had such a beautiful way with words, Dr. Angela. I really, really enjoyed listening to her describe her relationship. Yeah, I'm going to use that term, her relationship with research. It was really, really powerful for me. I hope it was for you too. Right. Top 3 takeaway time. Takeaway number 1. Um, I loved it. So I can remember like when I was like little, and you read fables and myths and things like that. And there was always, where I was growing up in Canada, this thing of don't jump before you look. I mean, don't look before you jump or something like that. I have to look it up now because I can't remember which way around it is. But it's that whole idea of don't do something unless you know that it's going to be okay. And I really enjoyed how Angela shared with us that, research wasn't on her thing, wasn't on her agenda, and she just dove in anyway. And she didn't really know what a PhD would lead to. She didn't really know that it could lead to a career in research. But she jumped into it because it was something that she was interested in, something that she was passionate about. And so she just went for it. And now, 10-ish years later, she's got so many publications. She's won multiple awards. She's got international collaborations around the globe. She's a real leading researcher in the field of heart failure. And it's, yeah, really inspiring to hear from somebody who's reached to the degree that she's reached of success within her career as a nurse researcher, that yes, she had a trajectory, but it wasn't part of her plan. But she just left. Maybe think about just leaping. Right. Second top takeaway, which I really, really liked about it, because especially in qualitative research, there's a lot written about bracketing and how you're going to limit your influence on the data and how you interpret things and things. And I'm not saying that that's bad, but personally, I really struggle to not do like what Angela said in this episode, which is my second top takeaway, is bring your whole self to the research. And, she talked about how the fact that she had multiple languages, that even in the early stages of her career as a nurse, she took that experience she had in language school and combined it with nursing to create something to help these non-Italian speakers in an Italian hospital communicate their pain. And, that vastness of experience that we all have because of who our parents were, because of where we grew up, because of our culture, our beliefs, our jobs, the path that we took up into starting research, that can all make us and help us shape a unique perspective that's going to make our research that much more powerful or that much more applicable to where we are in that time. And I think that's just a really important message to get out there, is that you can be your whole self, and that whole self can be a powerful voice when it comes to developing research and writing your research results. Oh, and that reminds me, before I get on to the third top takeaway, we did talk quite a bit about some really good, helpful hints that she had around writing limitations. And I will put that as one of the chapters in the episode description before. So if you need some top tips, go back and have a listen to that. Right. Back to the top takeaways. The last takeaway for me, the third one, is, and I'm using her words because I think they were beautiful, is take the time to find your research soul. I think in research, there's a lot of talk around finding your niche or, keeping your career focused or things like that. But I think, her way of looking at it, I found really refreshing, because like if you look at all of her papers, there are big differences. It's not like every paper she ever wrote is about heart failure. There's stuff on there from COVID. There's stuff about carers. There's stuff on methods. There's lots of really distinct research papers and research work that she's written about. So on the surface of things, it might look like it's a scattered journey, but if you read those papers, you can see that her research soul still comes through, and that soul being about trying to better communicate, find ways to make it so that the research that we're writing, that we're doing, that we're communicating takes into account contextual factors so that those findings can be implemented in a real world situation. And so I think give yourself that time. And it might be before you start your PhD, but it might be after your PhD. It might even be after postdocs, before you find that research soul. But to allow yourself to stay true to that research soul and let that guide your career and your trajectory, and embrace the journey that it takes you on. Right. I'm going to wrap this up now. Hopefully this episode isn't too long. Hopefully you've made it to the end. If you have, let me know. Drop a thumbs up in the comments so that I know if you've made it to the end or not. And I will see you all in another 3 weeks. Until then, keep asking why.